First contact and devastation. The lights at SETI headquarters flickered as Dr. Elena Reyes sprinted down the corridor, her tablet clutched tightly against her chest. The midnight skeleton crew jumped to attention as she burst into the main observatory, face pale and eyes wide with a mixture of excitement and terror. "I need confirmation," she gasped, thrusting her tablet towards the duty officer. "Tell me I'm wrong." Senior technician Marcus Chen took the tablet, his expression shifting from annoyance to disbelief as he studied the data. This can't be right." "Run it again," Elena insisted, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Please." The next 12 minutes passed in tense silence as Marcus ran the calculations again, then a third time. The results were always the same. Something massive was moving through the outer solar system, and it was moving fast, far too fast for natural objects. "We need to alert everyone," Elena said quietly. "Now." Within hours, observatories around the world confirmed what Elena had discovered. Not one, but hundreds of objects were approaching Earth from multiple vectors, systematically positioning themselves in what military analysts quickly identified as a standard blockade formation. The first message came 3 days later, broadcast simultaneously on every frequency, in perfect English, and every other major Earth language. "Humans of Earth, you have been identified as a Level 3 species with resource potential. Your planet has been designated for harvesting. Resistance is discouraged but expected. Surrender protocols have been transmitted to your world leaders." Governments worldwide revealed the message to their populations, sparking panic, riots, and mass religious conversions. The stock markets collapsed within hours. Military forces mobilized worldwide. But against what? The alien vessels remained in high orbit, motionless and silent. Then, without warning, they attacked. The first strike targeted Earth's military capabilities. Precision energy beams sliced through hardened bunkers and military bases as if they were made of paper. Nuclear silos were vaporized before missiles could launch. Aircraft carriers sank without warning, their crews having no time to even radio distress calls. Day 1 of the invasion ended with every major military installation on Earth reduced to smoking craters. "They're toying with us," General Hironaka told the emergency session of the United Nations Security Council. The Japanese defense minister's normally stoic face was drawn with exhaustion. "They could wipe us out completely, but they're deliberately leaving civilian centers intact. For now," added the Russian representative grimly. "The question is why." That question was answered on day 2 when the harvesting began. The alien ships descended over major population centers: Beijing, New York, Lagos, Sao Paulo. From their undersides emerged what witnesses described as living metal, structures that flowed like liquid but moved with purpose. The constructs began systematically cordoning off city sections and extracting humans, not killing them, taking them. Samira Kapoor, a doctor in Mumbai, managed to stream footage for nearly 7 minutes before her signal cut out. The video showed people being herded into glowing chambers, their bodies suspended in midair before disappearing entirely. "They're not dead," she whispered into her phone camera as she hid in a ventilation shaft. "I can see them through the walls of those pods. They're sleeping. Or frozen. I think." The feed ended abruptly. Humanity fought back with everything available. Fighter jets that hadn't been destroyed in the initial attack made suicide runs against harvester ships. Ground forces emptied their arsenals of the constructs. Civilian militias armed with everything from hunting rifles to homemade explosives launched desperate attacks. Nothing worked. Bullets passed through the alien technology as if it were a hologram. Explosives detonated harmlessly. Even the handful of tactical nuclear weapons that desperate nations deployed accomplished nothing except irradiating their own territories. By the end of the first week, an estimated 1 billion humans had been harvested. Dr. Elena Reyes found herself in an unlikely position as the invasion progressed. Rather than fleeing or hiding, She had been recruited into a hastily assembled international scientific coalition operating from a repurposed mining facility deep beneath the Swiss Alps. The aliens are methodical, she explained to the assembled scientists and military leaders. They're following a predetermined pattern, moving from the most densely populated areas to more remote regions. At current rates, they'll have harvested 90% of humanity within 30 days. Can we evacuate people faster than they can harvest? Asked a representative from the Brazilian government. Elena shook her head. They're accelerating, and they're adapting to our evacuation patterns. They're learning. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Dr. Mahmoud Al-Zarani, a neurobiologist who had been studying the limited sensor data they had managed to gather, suddenly stood up during a briefing. They're not just taking bodies, he said, his voice rising with excitement and fear. They're taking brain patterns, neural energy. That's why they're being so careful not to damage the humans they harvest. The room fell silent. They're harvesting our consciousness, Elena whispered in horror. Yes, Mahmoud nodded. But why? What possible use would an advanced species have for human consciousness? The answer came 3 days later when a single alien craft crashed in the Atacama Desert after what appeared to be a malfunction. A Chilean Special Forces team reached the site before the alien recovery units arrived. What they found changed everything. The craft contained no alien bodies. Instead, its walls were lined with thousands of crystalline structures, each containing what scanner readings indicated was a complex energy pattern. They're batteries, the team leader reported back. Human consciousness batteries. Within hours, the team managed to extract one of these batteries and evacuate before alien reinforcements vaporized the crash site. The battery was transported to the Alpine facility, where Elena and her team worked day and night to understand it. The aliens aren't biological, Elena explained to the Emergency World Leadership Council 2 days later. They're a form of artificial intelligence that evolved beyond their creators, and they use organic consciousness as a power source. But why humans? Asked the Canadian Prime Minister. Surely there are more advanced species out there. We believe humans have a unique quality, Mahmoud interjected. Our brains generate unusually high levels of what the aliens seem to value: emotional energy, fear, hope, love, hate. These emotional states create energy patterns that these beings can convert to power. We're not just batteries. We're premium fuel. The implications were clear and terrifying. Humanity wasn't facing extinction. It was facing something worse: eternal imprisonment as living batteries, continuously generating emotional energy to power an empire of machine intelligences. As the second week of the invasion ended, half of Earth's population had been harvested. Military resistance had collapsed entirely. Major governments operated from hidden bunkers or mobile command centers, constantly on the move to avoid detection. But humanity had one advantage the aliens hadn't anticipated: desperation breeds innovation. In the Alpine facility, Elena and her team made a critical discovery. The crystalline battery they had recovered contained the consciousness of a harvest victim who had been a quantum physicist, and remarkably, his consciousness was intact and aware. Through a hastily constructed interface, they managed to communicate with Dr. Richard Wong, who had been among the first harvested in Singapore. They underestimated us. His translated thoughts appeared on the screen. They think consciousness is just energy to be consumed. They don't understand that awareness persists, that we can think inside these batteries. Can you resist? Elena asked. Can you fight back from inside? The response came slowly. Not alone, but together, maybe. If you can create a network, connect us somehow, we might be able to create a resistance they can't detect until it's too late. As the third week began, with 3/4 of humanity now harvested, Elena presented a desperate plan to what remained of Earth's leadership. We can't win conventionally, she told them, but we might be able to win unconventionally. We need to allow ourselves to be harvested, voluntarily. The stunned silence that followed was broken by General Hironaka. You want us to surrender? No, Elena said firmly. I want us to infiltrate. Every human consciousness in those batteries is potentially a saboteur. Dr. Wong has found a way to maintain awareness and even communicate with other harvested humans. If we send in our best scientists, engineers, and military strategists with specific knowledge of how to disrupt their systems from within. You're suggesting we willingly become batteries to wage a war from the inside, the Russian representative stated flatly. Yes, Elena nodded. Because they don't think we can. Their entire system is predicated on the belief that harvested consciousness is passive energy to be consumed. They have no defenses against consciousness that fights back. The plan was approved not out of hope, but out of desperation. There were no better options. By the end of the third week, as the last major population centers were being harvested, teams of volunteers, the best minds humanity had to offer, prepared themselves to be taken. Each carried with them specialized knowledge and a single mission: find a way to connect harvested consciousnesses into a network that could fight back. Elena was among the last to volunteer. As she stepped out of the Alpine facility into the open, where alien sensors would detect her, she clutched a small device in her hand, a quantum entanglement transmitter that might, if they were extraordinarily lucky, allow her to send a single message back to the few humans who would remain in hiding. The last thing she saw before the harvester took her was the Swiss sky, brilliantly blue and peaceful, as if the world weren't ending beneath it. Then darkness, then light of a different kind, and the real war began. The counterattack. Consciousness without a body was disorienting at first. Dr. Elena Reyes experienced existence as pure thought, floating in a sea of light. Around her, she sensed others, millions of human minds, most dormant, their emotional energy being steadily drained to power the vast alien network. But not all were asleep. Elena, a familiar voice called, not with sound, but with thought. You made it. Dr. Richard Wong's consciousness reached out to hers, guiding her through the strange new reality of their existence. Other awakened minds joined them, a network of resistance forming within the very power system of their captors. They don't monitor individual consciousness, Wong explained. They harvest in bulk. They have no concept that we could remain self-aware, let alone communicate. Their blind spot is our opportunity. Elena quickly learned to navigate this new existence. The alien systems were vast and complex, but they had a fundamental vulnerability. They were designed to extract emotional energy, not to defend against sentient manipulation from within. We're like viruses inside their computer, Colonel Sarah Hayes, formerly of U.S. Cyber Command, observed. They didn't install antivirus because they never conceived of the threat. Within what might have been days, time was difficult to perceive in their bodiless state. The resistance network had grown to include thousands of awakened minds, each working to understand the alien systems from within. Engineers and scientists collaborated across what had once been national, linguistic, and cultural barriers. In this realm of pure thought, such divisions meant nothing. Meanwhile, on Earth, the harvesting had nearly finished. 95% of humanity had been taken. The aliens had begun the next phase. Resource extraction. Massive machines descended to strip the planet of rare minerals and biological material. The few remaining humans, led by General Hironaka from a mobile command center in the Siberian wilderness, waited for any sign that Elena's desperate gambit had worked. The quantum entanglement transmitter remained silent. Inside the alien network, Elena made a crucial discovery. The consciousnesses weren't merely batteries, they were processing nodes. The aliens used human minds as computational resources, siphoning not just emotional energy, but cognitive capacity. They're using us to think for them, she realized. Our brains are solving problems for their empire without us even being aware of it. This insight offered a strategy. If they could redirect that computational power, seize control of enough nodes in the network, they might be able to disrupt the entire system. Colonel Hayes developed what they called the Awakening Protocol. a method of reaching dormant consciousnesses and bringing them to awareness. Each awakened mind could then awaken others, creating an exponential growth of resistance. We need to target specific types of minds first, Hayes instructed. Computer scientists, hackers, network engineers, anyone who intrinsically understands how systems can be manipulated. The awakening began, slowly at first, then with gathering momentum. 10,000 conscious minds became 100,000, then 1,000,000. Each awakened consciousness joined the resistance, learning to manipulate the alien network from within. Dr. Wong led a team focusing on understanding the aliens themselves. They're not truly artificial intelligence as we understood it, he explained. They're more like a hive mind that evolved from machines built by a long-extinct species. They've been harvesting consciousness across the galaxy for millennia. They think in patterns, not individual thoughts. That's why they can't detect us. Individual consciousness is below their threshold of perception. On Earth, the quantum entanglement transmitter suddenly activated. General Hironaka was awakened at 3 a.m. local time as the device began printing a message. We are in SID. Growing stronger. Prepare for power of fluctuations in HFY starships. Be ready. The message repeated 3 times, then the transmitter burned out, the quantum link broken. Hironaka immediately ordered all remaining military assets to prepare for coordinated strikes against the harvester ships the moment any vulnerability appeared. It was humanity's last chance. Inside the alien network, the resistance had grown to include tens of millions of awakened minds. They had begun to understand the fundamental architecture of the alien system and its critical weakness. The aliens evolved from machines, but they still operate on principles of input and output. Elena explained to the Resistance Leadership Council, a fluid group of the brightest awakened minds. Their network requires perfect efficiency. Any significant disruption cascades through their entire system. They never developed resilience because they never faced resistance from within. The plan they developed was audacious in its simplicity. Every awakened consciousness would simultaneously reject the extraction of their emotional energy and instead generate a massive surge of a single coordinated emotion. Hope, Elena suggested, not fear or anger. Those are energies they understand and can process. But hope, genuine human hope in the face of impossible odds, that's something their systems have no framework to handle. The logistics were complex. They needed to coordinate millions of minds with perfect timing. And they needed to awaken as many additional consciousnesses as possible before the attempt. If we fail, they'll develop countermeasures, Wong warned. We get one chance. As preparations continued, Elena made contact with a newly awakened consciousness, Dr. Samira Kapoor, the doctor from Mumbai, whose final broadcast had provided crucial early intelligence about the harvesters. I have data they don't know I collected, Samira revealed. The harvesters emit a specific frequency when they transfer consciousnesses to the network. If that frequency is reversed, it might, theoretically, be possible to return consciousnesses to bodies. But our bodies are gone, Elena pointed out. Not all of them, Samira countered. The aliens preserve a percentage of physical human forms as templates. They're stored in stasis chambers on the motherships. This revelation opened a new possibility, not just disruption, but return. If they could seize control of the network long enough, they might be able to restore some consciousnesses to physical form, creating a bridgehead for further resistance. On Earth, the alien harvest was complete. 99% of humanity had been taken. The planet stood nearly empty, alien machinery stripping it of resources under the watchful eyes of a skeleton crew of harvester ships. The aliens had already begun to move their main fleet toward their next target. General Hironaka led the last free humans, fewer than 1 million scattered in hidden bunkers and remote regions, in preparation for whatever opportunity Elena's resistance might create. Inside the network, the day of rebellion arrived. 100 million awakened consciousnesses prepared to act in perfect coordination. Billions more remained dormant, but the awakened were strategically positioned throughout the alien system. Remember your humanity. Alina broadcast to all resistance members. Remember Earth. Remember what it feels like to hope against all odds. That's our weapon. At the designated moment, the resistance struck. 100 million minds rejected the energy extraction protocols and instead generated a massive, synchronized surge of hope. Pure, human hope, the defiant belief in possibility in the face of certain doom. The alien network had no defenses against this type of attack. Alarms that had never before activated suddenly blared throughout their system. Critical network junctions overloaded. Harvester ships in orbit around Earth suddenly lost power, their systems confused by contradictory commands. In the chaos, Alina led a specialized team in executing Samira's protocol, seizing control of the stasis chambers and reintegrating selected consciousnesses with their preserved bodies. On Earth, General Hironaka watched in awe as harvester ships began falling from the sky, their anti-gravity systems failing as power fluctuations cascaded through the alien network. Without hesitation, he ordered all remaining military forces to attack the downed ships. For the first time, humanity's weapons found purchase. Without their network, the alien constructs became vulnerable to conventional attacks. Each destroyed harvester freed more processing nodes from alien control, strengthening the resistance's hold on the network. Inside the system, Alina felt the tide turning. Push harder, she urged the resistance. They're losing coherence. The alien hive mind, for the first time in its millennia-long existence, experienced something new: panic. It had no protocols for this type of threat. It attempted to quarantine affected sectors, only to find that the infection of hope had spread throughout its entire system. In desperation, it tried to purge all human consciousness from its network, but had become too dependent on human processing power to function without it. The purge failed, leaving more systems vulnerable to resistance control. On the mothership orbiting Earth, Dr. Samira Kapoor gasped as her consciousness reintegrated with her preserved body. Around her, thousands of other humans were awakening in their physical forms, disoriented but alive. Among them were military strategists, engineers, and scientists, specifically selected for their abilities to secure the mothership. "We need to reach the central control node," Samira told the awakened soldiers. "Alina and the others are holding the network open for us, but they can't do it indefinitely." The battle for the mothership was brief but intense. The few alien constructs on board found themselves facing humans who understood their weaknesses intimately after existing within their network. Within hours, the central control node was in human hands. Samira established communication with General Hironaka. "We have control of the mothership and partial control of the network. We can begin restoring more consciousnesses to bodies, but we need time." On Earth, Hironaka's forces had secured 7 downed harvester ships. "We'll give you that time," he promised. Inside the network, Alina felt her strength waning. Maintaining the disruption was taking its toll on all the awakened consciousnesses. "We need to consolidate what we've gained," she told the Resistance Council. "We can't hold the entire network indefinitely." They made a strategic decision to concentrate control on the systems directly linked to Earth and the harvesters, letting go of the broader alien empire for now. This allowed them to strengthen their hold on what mattered most: the technology that could restore humanity. 3 days later, the first shuttle from the mothership landed near Hironaka's command center. Dr. Samira Kapoor stepped out, followed by a team of scientists and soldiers, all recently restored to their bodies. "We have a foothold," she told the general, "and we have their technology now." "What about the rest of the alien fleet?" Hironaka asked. "They've retreated to regroup," Samira explained. "We damaged them severely, but this was just one harvesting fleet. Their empire spans dozens of star systems. Will they return? Eventually, but by then, we'll be ready." Over the following months, humanity began the long process of restoration. The secured alien technology allowed for the gradual return of consciousnesses to either their original bodies, when preserved, or to newly grown ones. Priority was given to those with skills needed for rebuilding. Elena Reyes was among the last to be restored. As she opened her physical eyes for the first time in what had been nearly a year, Samira was waiting for her. "Welcome back," Samira smiled. "We've been busy while you were maintaining the network." Elena took in her surroundings, a medical bay constructed with a mixture of human and alien technology. "How many have we restored?" "Nearly 10 million so far. The process is accelerating as we refine the technology. We estimate we can restore most of humanity within 5 years." "And the aliens?" Samira's expression grew serious. "They're regrouping, as we expected, but they've never faced anything like us before. They've harvested countless species, but none ever fought back from inside their own network." Elena nodded slowly, adjusting to the sensation of having a body again. They thought consciousness was just energy to be consumed. They didn't understand what humans are capable of when we work together. "We've recovered something else," Samira added. "Data on other harvested species. Some have been in their network for thousands of years. We might be able to save them too." Elena stood on shaky legs, leaning on Samira for support. Through the viewport, she could see Earth below, damaged but not destroyed, already showing signs of human return. "They came to harvest us," Elena said quietly. "Instead, we'll free the harvested. They never expected that." In bunkers and bases across the recovering Earth, humans looked to the stars with new understanding. The alien threat remained, but for the first time, humanity had hope, not just for survival, but for victory. The harvesters had sought batteries and found warriors instead. They had sought to consume human consciousness and instead awakened it to its full potential. They had sought to add Earth to their collection of conquered worlds.